My experience with ITA Airways. So there's been a number of posts I've seen, and when I was researching for a flight, the recent flight I took from Miami to Cairo, I wanted a specific type of seat, and I also wanted the shortest trip possible. There were no direct flights from the South Florida area to Cairo, so I had a couple of different options, ITA Airways being one of them. And I did some research because I wasn't super familiar with them, and the reviews were more negative than positive. There were a few somewhat positive reviews. I found one blog post that shared about an experience a gentleman had, I think, right after COVID. So it didn't seem super relevant to now, and wasn't as helpful as I would have hoped. So there was not much available, which is why I'm recording this. So I flew from Miami to Rome, Rome to Cairo on ITA Airways. I flew in business class. My trip was the end of January, returning the beginning of February. And what I really liked about ITA was the fact that they had an option for a single seat. So they basically had a one seat, two seat, one seat configuration in business class. And I wanted to be able to sit in a seat where I wouldn't have to share a space with someone else. I had flown on Lufthansa a year and a half ago, and I didn't realize in business class that the two seats together, you basically had somebody sharing literally like a regular kind of seat configuration with you, and that when you would lay flat, that they would literally be right next to you, which is great if you're traveling with your friend or significant other, but not so great if it's a stranger. Luckily, I didn't have anyone sitting next to me, so it wasn't an issue, but I was aware of that going into this trip and wanted to make sure that I had a single seat where no one would be disturbing me and I wouldn't be sharing any personal space with anyone. And ITA was the only airline flying to Cairo from Miami that offered that option. So automatically, that was a big plus. So that was a positive, having a single seat in business class. The second part of it that I liked was that the layover was short between Rome and Cairo. Now, I liked that it was short, but I was also a little nervous because it was only an hour hour layover, and I was worried that I would not make my connection. It turned out fine. My flight from Miami to Rome was a little bit early. And then when I got there, they did not even have a gate yet for the Rome to Cairo flight. So I had more than enough time. I actually sat around and waited longer than I expected, but I didn't feel I had enough time to go to a lounge or explore that. So as of that part of the trip, I had no experience with the lounge at all. So when I got to Cairo, it was really pretty straightforward. And the flight itself, both flights, the long haul flight was great. The food was delicious. The service was good. The seats were very comfortable. I was able to lay flat. The pillow was okay. Would have been nice for it to have been a little bit fluffier. It seems like it's had some use, but the cover was clean. The blanket was clean. The seats were fairly new and comfortable. The pod area was quite nice. The connection, the Rome to Cairo, basic kind of airplane. I don't know what type it was, but it was 3 seats, 3 and 3. And because it was business, the first few rows, you had an open seat in the middle. No one was in the row with me, so I had the whole row to myself, which was great. They had a little snack box, which was fine, and the service was okay. Nothing special. Okay, so for my return from Cairo back to Miami, this was interesting. So I had a 4:30 a.m. flight out of Cairo. What I was shocked to find out was that at 1:30 or so in the morning, when I was making my way to the airport, that everything was open like it was the middle of the day at the Cairo airport. There's a museum there in Terminal 2, which is where the ITA Airways is located, and that was open. The lounge that they have there is part of a bunch of airlines, I believe. It was open, fairly comfortable. Actually, because not that many people were there. There was a lounger available, so I was able to close my eyes and rest. They had food, hot food, cold food, some snacks, coffee center, which was great. They had teas available. They had conference rooms that you could rent. What else? It was comfortable and quite fine. I was just so happy it was open. Most lounges are not open in the middle of the night, so that was a great treat. The other kind of surprise about it was when I got on the flight. It was a short haul, about 3.5 hours or so from Cairo to Rome. I was greeted with a pod situation where you had the singular seat, and I was able to lay flat, which was such a godsend because I wasn't feeling super on my way back. So to be able to have a pretty decent sized space, it was actually bigger than the space that I had on the long haul flight, and pretty good food, and the staff there was very, very sweet, was such a pleasant surprise. So that was great. Maybe it was because of the hour that they had that. Landing in Rome, found my way to the lounge, and there had been some feedback that I had read online about how the lounge was not good. It was old, it was dated. I guess they revamped it because it was seemed fairly new. Everything seemed clean and in good shape. There was unbelievably good pastries in the morning. They had hot options. They had cold options. There was a coffee maker there with Illy coffee. There was plenty of seating, and I greatly enjoyed my time there. The Wi-Fi was strong. It was delightful. And then coming back from Rome to Miami, the one thing I didn't realize when I had booked my original flight, I had booked an aisle seat, and this time I decided to do a window because even though it's a singular seat, it's where the seat is. So a window seat is closer to the window, and aisle seat is closer to the aisle, but you obviously still have access to the window and the aisle personally. What I found interesting was with the window, it was very confining because you have this console thing to the side of you, so you have this small amount of space between the window and the console thing, and like maybe this much space to walk through to get to the aisle, and I did not enjoy that. Turning around and moving on the lay flat seat in the window space was a bit more challenging and confining. I'm a small person, so even if I was having difficulty, I can't imagine being an average sized man there. It would be really difficult to sleep in any position other than just flat on your back. So again, the food was really, really good, and the service was good. Service could have been maybe a touch better, but overall I would say quite nice, and I really, really, really enjoyed my ITA experience. One other thing. When I went to check in for my flight returning from Cairo to Miami, I was not able to check in at all online. It kept saying check in, not yet available, check in, not yet available. No one else that I was on the trip with had any issue checking in for their flight. They were able to check in, but they had to go to the gate to get their boarding pass. Go to the counter to get their boarding pass, but I wasn't able to do anything. But it wasn't a big deal. I went to the counter and was able to navigate that fine. Also, I had just a carry-on bag and a small personal item, and did not check any bags, so I can't speak to that part of it at all because that was not something that I experienced. But I just wanted to share this because I found that it was hard to find some current information about ITA, and I really enjoyed my experience and wanted to share that with others so that they might feel comfortable booking a flight going forward for themselves. All right. Hope it's helpful.